5 years. 5 goddamn years I poured into us. Liam! That's my name! Liam Hayes. Sounds like a detective in a dime store novel, right? Turns out, I'm about to solve the biggest mystery of my life. Where the hell did my future go? Dominique and I. We were supposed to be it. The forever kind of love story. We met at a housewarming party. I spilled red wine down her favorite vintage dress. Classic meet cute material. We bonded over hating IPAs and quoting 90s cartoons. It was easy. Comfortable. It felt right. Fast forward 5 years, a shared apartment, a neurotic cat named Beans, and a tearful proposal on a windswept cliff overlooking the ocean. We were golden. We were set. Then, 3 months ago, the cracks started. Subtle at first, like hairline fractures in a perfect facade. Little comments during wedding planning. That's a lot of money for one day, Liam. Do we really need to invite Aunt Mildred? I chalked it up to wedding stress. Budgets. Bridesmaids. The usual bullshit. Then came the radio silence. Texts about caterers went unanswered for hours. Sometimes just a looks fine. Or worse, whatever you want. I asked if she was okay. Just busy at work, she'd say, her eyes glued to her phone. She works for a construction company. Big project going on. Made sense? Or, at least, I wanted it to make sense. Then Paula showed up. Dominique's coworker. Just work friends grabbing beers after work, she'd explain. Except the beers turned into watching games at Paula's place. Then late nights. Then Dominique coming home. Different. Distant. Always texting. Less affectionate. I talked to Lou, my best friend. Pre-wedding jitters, man, he said, slapping me on the back. Date night. Reconnect. So, last Friday, I booked a table at that new Italian place downtown. Dressed nice. Not fancy, just thoughtful. Even picked up her favorite craft beer to chill in the fridge. Romance, right? Wrong. The date was a disaster. She was distracted the whole time, barely looked at me. And then, when I brought up finalizing the honeymoon, boom. I don't know if I'm ready for all this, Liam. Not the honeymoon. Not the wedding. Not the marriage. All of it. 5 fucking years. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Couldn't breathe. She blamed conversations with Paula. Paula's sister's messy divorce. The whole marriage changes things spiel. We argued. I tried to keep my voice down, but I was losing it. My world was collapsing. Right there in the middle of the damn restaurant. We barely touched our entrees. The ride home was silent, thick with tension. At the apartment, she said she needed time to think and slept on the couch. The goddamn couch. The next morning was a goddamn minefield. We tiptoed around each other, strangers in our own home. She said she was meeting Paula and some co-workers for lunch to watch a game at the Rusty Nail, that sports bar downtown. I was too numb to argue. Lou called, dragged me out of the apartment. Coffee. He listened, suggested it was all just pre-wedding anxiety. We wandered around Target, killing time. Retail therapy? New throw pillows. Shampoo I didn't need. Anything to numb the ache in my chest. By early evening, I felt calmer. Drove home. That's when I got the text. Kylie, Dominique's coworker. Are you okay? Things got weird at the Rusty Nail. I called her. She sounded uncomfortable, reluctant. I pushed, and then she told me. The girls were giving Dominique a hard time about the wedding. Paula asked if she was ready to be with one man forever. Dominique, apparently drunk, said something like, "If you were more handsome, I'd be more excited about marrying you." And then she laughed. Kylie and some of the other girls called her out on it, but Dominique just got defensive. Said they couldn't take a joke. I sat in my car and sobbed for 20 goddamn minutes. The woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me, had publicly joked about my appearance being the reason she was hesitant to marry me. My appearance, All I've ever done is work hard for her, and she demeans me like this. I finally went inside. Dominique was passed out on the couch, still in her clothes from earlier. The apartment reeked of stale beer. I took Beans into the bedroom and locked the door. Sunday morning. Woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. Dominique's signature apology breakfast. She looked hungover, sheepish, like food would fix everything. I confronted her about what Kylie said. Her face fell, immediately downplayed it. Drunk. Stupid. The girls were ragging on me about being tied down, and I said something dumb to shut them up. Girls being girls, she said. That only made it worse. I asked how she could humiliate me like that, in front of her friends. She insisted it wasn't her intention. Stressed about wedding costs. Pressure. Bullshit. I couldn't get past it. She used my appearance as the punchline to a cruel joke, a joke she didn't even have the guts to tell me to my face. I couldn't stay in that apartment with her. Grabbed my purse. Headed to Ellie's. My sister. My safe harbor. When I told her what happened, she was furious, ready to go full on scorched earth. I calmed her down, said I just needed space, a place to think. All day Sunday, Dominique texted, "Apologies. Please come home." "Let's talk," I responded once. "I need time." Called in sick to work Monday. Couldn't face answering phones at the dental office. Pretending everything was fine. 9 a.m., my phone rang. Victor, Dominique's dad. We've always gotten along. He's been more supportive than my own dad, who lives in Florida with husband number 3. Victor sounded upset. Said Dominique had called him last night. Something important I needed to know. Asked if we could meet, and that's where I am now. Sitting in my car outside the coffee shop. 15 minutes until I meet Victor, wondering what else there could possibly be to know. Is my 5-year relationship completely over? I keep looking at my engagement ring, wondering if I should have seen this coming. Was I blind? Or did things really change this suddenly? Should I even hear Victor out? What could he possibly tell me that would make any of this okay? The coffee shop was buzzing. Teenagers spilling from the local college, all fake IDs and dreams of a future they could never imagine. Victor had managed to snag a corner booth, all high-backed seats and a false sense of privacy. He looked different, hair slightly disheveled. No cologne. Victor always wore cologne. Lavender dryer sheets. That man. A small comfort of the life I thought I would live forever. I ordered a black coffee. I wanted a caramel sugar bomb with extra whipped cream, but this wasn't the day. Grief black, please. He started with small talk, asking about my job, how Beans was doing. I cut him off. Victor, what is it? What did Dominique tell you? He shredded a napkin into confetti. Dominique called me Sunday night. She was distraught, Liam. He paused, took a deep breath. This was it. There's someone else, Liam. The words hit me like a physical blow. Mario? You need to know about Mario? Mario. The new project coordinator at Dominique's company. The guy she'd mentioned a few times in passing. The one who really get the big jobs done around here. Victor explained. Dominique had developed feelings for Mario. Nothing physical, she'd sworn to him. But an emotional connection. Something that had her questioning everything. I felt sick, like the coffee shop was tilting. All the pieces clicked into place. The distance, the secrecy, the extra time at work. It wasn't just stress. It was him. I demanded to know why Victor was telling me this. Why not protect his daughter? His eyes welled up. I don't want history to repeat itself, Liam. He told me about Dominique's mother, how she left years ago for another man. A coworker. There was nothing he could have done, and nothing that had made a difference. He saw the same patterns now. The distance, the hurtful comments, the fabricated arguments, all to create distance, to avoid the truth. The joke at the bar, it wasn't just drunken stupidity. It was a subconscious attempt to sabotage us, so she wouldn't have to make a choice. She would be forced to get the push she had been looking for all along. We talked for hours. Victor told me about his own experience, trying to save his marriage, even after learning about the affair, blaming himself for not being enough. Before we parted ways, he said something that's been echoing in my head ever since. The hardest lesson I learned, Liam, is that you can't make someone choose you. They either do or they don't. Anything in between is just delaying the inevitable. I sat in my car staring at my phone. 3 new texts from Dominique. I'm sorry. I love you. But no mention of Mario. Still hiding the truth. I texted back. I know about Mario. Don't contact me again until you're ready to tell me the complete truth. I'll be collecting my things tomorrow while you're at work. Blocked her number. Just for the night. Needed space. To breathe. On the drive to Luz, Kevin called. Dominique's brother. He confirmed what Victor told me. Added another layer. He'd overheard Dominique and Paula discussing the situation last Thursday. Confronted Dominique. Made her promise to be honest with me after the weekend. She'd failed. Kevin was on my side. In this, the relief was enormous. I'd been so worried about losing not just Dominique, but her whole family. They were my family now. At Luz, it was exactly what I needed. Thai food on the floor, a baking competition on TV, mundane normality, a life preserver in my emotional storm. After Lou went to bed, I scrolled through photos. 5 years of memories. Vacations. Holidays. Random selfies. Our engagement photos. We looked so happy, so hopeful. I made a list in my notes app. Call venue. Cancel deposit. Return ring. Contact guests. Move out of apartment. Change relationship status on social media. It was after 2 a.m. Lou shuffled out. Heard me come in. Worried. I told him the wedding was off. He sat next to me, put his arm around my shoulders. We sat like that until sunrise. I woke up to a text from Dominique. Can we meet to discuss practical matters? The apartment. Finances. The furniture. Then a message from Ellie. When should I come help you pack? And one from my dad. He heard through the grapevine about the wedding off. Should I cancel my flight? The ring felt heavy on my finger. Twisting it. Nervous habit. I called the venue. Deposit non-refundable. $8,000 down the drain. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Margot? This is Mario. I know you blocked Dominique. Can we meet tomorrow? There's more to the story you should know. Margot, who the hell calls you Margot? I stared at the message. Heart pounding. What more could there possibly be? And why tell me now? Finally, I texted back. Where and when? We met at a small breakfast place near the park. Mario was already there, scrolling nervously on his phone. He looked different, less polished, more human. He wore minimal styling. His hair was pulled back in a messy bun, so comfortable it almost felt disrespectful. He was uncomfortable, fidgeting with his coffee cup, avoiding eye contact. If he'd been having an emotional affair with my fiancée, shouldn't he be more confident? And then the bombshells dropped. First, Mario had no idea Dominique had developed feelings for him. He was blindsided. According to him, they worked closely on a project. Occasional texts about work after hours, but nothing that crossed the line. He showed me the text history. Work stuff. Occasional memes. Nothing romantic. He even had a girlfriend of 3 years. Second, Paula. She'd been stirring things up. Deliberately. Mario had overheard her at work, encouraging Dominique to explore her options before settling down, specifically mentioning him, saying he got her better than I did. He said Paula told everyone at work that Dominique was having cold feet about the wedding, joking about her being trapped, missing out on her freedom. By the end of the meeting, I felt strangely calm. Mario wasn't the villain I'd imagined. He was just a bystander, caught in Paula's manipulation and Dominique's weakness. before we parted ways, he said something that stuck with me. You seem like someone who knows their worth. Don't let anyone make you question it. I left that meeting with a new perspective. This wasn't just about Dominique and me anymore. It was about Paula. It was about family history. It was about self-respect. I texted Kevin, "Family meeting at your place?" He agreed. Yesterday's dinner? Kevin had set everything up. Food from the Italian place near his building. Nothing fancy. Pasta and salad. Victor arrived first. Then Paula. Kevin insisted she attend. Finally, Dominique. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The first 20 minutes were excruciating. Small talk. The weather. Kevin's new coffee table. Victor broke the silence. We're not here for a social gathering. We need to address what's been happening and find a way forward. The floodgates opened. I shared what I'd learned from Mario. Watching Paula's face, the way her expression shifted from confusion to defensiveness. She tried to interrupt. Just looking out for my friend. Kevin shut her down. Dominique mostly sat in silence, staring at her pasta. When directly addressed, she admitted that Mario had just been friendly, but she'd built it into something else, because she was scared of turning into her mother. Victor visibly flinched. I brought up the joke at the bar. Dominique looked genuinely ashamed. She said it had nothing to do with Mario. It was her being a coward. Paula was giving her a hard time about being whipped, and she'd said something horrible to seem cool. It was never about my looks. Paula dismissed it as just girl talk. Kevin reminded everyone that Dominique and I were supposed to get married in 3 months. That hit me like a punch to the gut. Save the dates had gone out. Deposits paid. My tux was hanging in Lou's spare closet, waiting for alterations. I don't think the wedding is happening anymore, I said. So quietly it was almost lost. The room went silent. Dominique started to protest. I cut her off. I spent the last week trying to understand how we got here. I had been avoiding the truth. I deserve someone who's certain about me. Someone who doesn't need a family intervention to figure out their feelings. Paula made a snarky comment. Victor and Kevin told her to shut up at the same time. Dominique insisted she was certain about loving me. Just scared. I said she'd already hurt me enough. The conversation went on for hours. Tears. Heated words. Difficult truths. We rehashed old wounds, uncovered new ones. Around midnight, we reached the inevitable conclusion. The wedding was off. Our 5-year relationship, it was over. It wasn't a screaming match. No dramatic exit. A mutual recognition that something fundamental had broken. Trust. Maybe it could be rebuilt, eventually. But not in time for an October wedding. Not with Mario still at Dominique's company. Not with the echo of that joke still hanging between us. Kevin drove me back to Lou's. He said I was still family, regardless of what happened with Dominique. I sat on Lou's pull-out couch in the dark, letting the reality wash over me. 5 years gone. Wedding canceled. Future unknown. I made a list. Call venue. Return ring. Contact guests. Move out of apartment. Change relationship status. Endings are rarely clean or perfect, Victor said once. Most of the time, they're messy and sad and complicated. He would know. Lou suggested I take a mental health day from work. I went in anyway. Sitting at home, scrolling through Reddit and overthinking everything seemed worse. I'm meeting Dominique tomorrow to exchange keys and discuss the apartment. Another practical conversation. Part of me still can't believe this is happening. Last month, we were debating reception songs and tasting cake flavors. Now, we're dividing up kitchen appliances and deciding who gets the PlayStation. The wedding planning binder sits in my tote bag. The shared Spotify playlist. The honeymoon research folder. Pieces of a future that no longer exists. This morning, I called the venue. The coordinator was sympathetic but firm. The deposit is non-refundable. $8,000 gone. Money we'd saved for over a year. Kevin texted. He'd found a photographer willing to transfer our deposit to another event. Victor offered to help contact family about the cancellation. Small kindnesses. Paula sent a non-apology text. These things happen for a reason. You'll find someone better. I deleted it. Mario sent a short message. He regretted the situation. Nothing happened. I believe him. He seems like collateral damage. I'm not going to pretend I have everything figured out. The future is blurry, but it exists. 3 months. It's been 3 months since that dinner. 3 months of piecing my life back together. Dominique moved out of the apartment within a week. Ellie and Lou helped me pack her things. It was surreal. Finding a new place was hard. The rental market is brutal, and my budget is tighter. I ended up in a smaller one-bedroom across town. A tiny balcony, where I've started growing herbs. The wedding vendors were surprisingly understanding. The venue sent a kind note. The florist refunded half our payment. The DJ recommended his brother, who works at a therapy center. The engagement ring sits in my dresser drawer. Social media was hell. I posted a vague statement and muted notifications. Dominique and I have spoken a few times. Civil, but strained. I'm still close with her dad and brother. Kevin and I have breakfast every other Sunday. I've started therapy, reclaiming parts of myself that got lost. I've resumed hiking. And Dominique? She texted, asked if we could meet. She was seeing a therapist. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she was working on herself. It was the most self-aware I'd ever seen her. She mentioned she'd heard I was still close with her dad and brother. They need good people in their lives. The most unexpected thing? The honeymoon. Lou suggested I take it anyway. Alone. Terrified me at first. 10 days alone in a romantic cottage. The setup for a sad indie film. But the more I thought about it, the more appealing it became. I'm headed there next week. I've packed 3 paperbacks, downloaded some podcasts, and splurged on a new swimsuit. My dad thinks I'm crazy. Ellie offered to come. I declined. Kevin suggested I download a dating app. Maybe, but probably not. I don't know what I'll find on this non-honeymoon. Clarity? More questions? Definitely sunburn. The other day, our song came on in the grocery store. 3 months ago, I would have hidden in the frozen food section, fighting back tears. This time, I just felt a slight twinge, like pressing on a bruise that's mostly healed. Progress, not perfection. I am, to borrow a phrase from Victor, beginning to find my own lavender-scented cologne. The drive was long. A ribbon of asphalt unspooling through landscapes that seemed both familiar and alien. Familiar because I'd seen similar scenery on road trips with Dominique, but alien because I was alone, navigating it all in a silence that amplified every mile. I cranked up the radio, a desperate attempt to fill the void, flipping through stations until I landed on a classic rock channel blasting a song that Dominique used to hate. Something about a sweet child and a shotgun. I laughed, a short, sharp bark of amusement that echoed in the empty car. The cottage was exactly as pictured online, charmingly rustic with weathered shingles, a small porch swing, and a window box overflowing with petunias that looked suspiciously fake. It was tucked away at the end of a winding dirt road, perched on a bluff overlooking the ocean. The view was breathtaking. A vast expanse of turquoise water stretching out to meet the horizon. It should have been romantic. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and was immediately hit by the smell of pine and potpourri. It was clean but sterile, like a rental car that had been meticulously detailed but never truly lived in. I dropped my bags on the floor and wandered through the small space. Living room with a worn sofa and a gas fireplace. Kitchen with outdated appliances and mismatched dishes. Bedroom with a queen-sized bed covered in a floral quilt. Everything felt generic. I walked out onto the deck. The ocean roared below, a constant, rhythmic pulse. It was beautiful, yes, but also lonely. I pulled out my phone, resisting the urge to text Ellie or Lou. I needed to do this. I needed to be alone. I spent the first few days in a state of quiet contemplation. I slept late, drank coffee on the deck, read for hours, and took long walks on the beach. I explored the nearby town, poking around in antique shops and art galleries. I ate seafood at a local restaurant, watching the sun set over the water. It was peaceful, but also empty. I tried to journal, but the words wouldn't come. My thoughts were a jumbled mess of memories, regrets, and anxieties. I kept replaying the past, dissecting every conversation, every interaction with Dominique. Where had I gone wrong? Could I have done anything differently? At night, I had trouble sleeping. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of the waves crashing against the shore. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I missed her. God, I missed her. The way she laughed, the way she smelled, the way she knew exactly how to make me feel better when I was down. I started to doubt my decision to come here. Was I just prolonging the pain? Was I running away from something I needed to face? One afternoon, I decided to hike to a secluded cove I'd read about in a guidebook. It was a steep, winding trail that led through a dense forest. The air was thick with the smell of salt and pine. As I climbed, I started to feel a sense of release. The physical exertion cleared my head, pushed the negative thoughts aside. When I reached the cove, I was stunned. It was a hidden paradise, a small, sandy beach surrounded by towering cliffs. The water was crystal clear, shimmering in the sunlight. I stripped off my clothes and plunged into the icy water. It was shocking, invigorating. I swam for what felt like hours, letting the waves wash over me, cleansing me. As I floated on my back, looking up at the sky, I realized something. I was okay. I was going to be okay. It wasn't going to be easy, but I could do this. I could build a new life, a life that was just as fulfilling, just as meaningful as the life I had lost. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of rain. It was a steady, relentless downpour that turned the ocean into a churning gray mass. I made coffee and curled up on the sofa, watching the storm rage outside. I was halfway through my book when I heard a knock at the door. I hesitated. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole. A woman stood on the porch, huddled under a large umbrella. I didn't recognize her. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" She smiled, a hesitant, nervous smile. "Liam? It's me. Margot. Mario's girlfriend?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. What the hell was she doing here? I let her in. She shook off her umbrella, water dripping onto the floor. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 20s, pretty, with long dark hair and kind eyes. "I know this is weird," she said, "but I needed to talk to you." I gestured for her to sit down. "About what?" She took a deep breath. "About Mario. And Paula. And Dominique." She told me everything. How Paula had been obsessed with Dominique for months, constantly talking about her wedding, her doubts, her feelings for Mario. How Paula had manipulated Mario, trying to convince him that he and Dominique were meant to be together. How Paula had spread rumors at work, creating a toxic environment. It was all even worse than I imagined. "Mario is such a good guy," Margot said, her voice trembling. "He would never do anything to hurt anyone. Paula, she's been trying to ruin his life." She started to cry. I handed her a tissue. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I know this doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know the truth." We talked for hours about Paula, about Dominique, about the mess that their lives had become. I told her about my breakup, about my broken heart, about my struggle to move on. We found a strange kind of comfort in each other's company. We were both victims of Paula's manipulation, both collateral damage in Dominique's drama. As the afternoon wore on, the storm outside intensified. The power went out. We lit candles, turning the cottage into a cozy, intimate space. We shared stories, we laughed, we cried. We connected in a way that I never expected. That night, we slept in separate beds. But in the morning, we woke up and made coffee together, watching the sunrise over the ocean. Margot stayed for 2 days. We talked, we walked, we explored. She helped me see things from a new perspective. She helped me understand that I wasn't to blame for what had happened. She also helped me forgive. Not Dominique, not Paula, but myself. I had been so focused on what I had lost that I had forgotten to appreciate what I still had. When Margot left, she gave me a hug. "Thank you," she said, "for listening, for understanding." I smiled. "Thank you for being here." I watched her drive away, a feeling of lightness in my chest. The storm had passed, both literally and figuratively. The remaining days of my trip were different. I no longer felt the need to isolate myself. I started to reach out to friends, to family. I made plans for the future. I realized that this wasn't the end of my life. It was just the beginning. I had a whole new world to explore, a whole new chapter to write. I left the cottage feeling stronger, more confident, more resilient than I had in years. I was still sad, still hurting, but I knew that I could heal. I knew that I could move on. Back home, life slowly started to return to normal. I went back to work, reconnected with friends. I started to pursue my hobbies. I even started to think about dating again. I wasn't ready for anything serious, but I was open to meeting new people. One evening, I was at a local bar chatting with a friend when I saw Dominique. She was sitting at a table across the room, talking to a group of people. I froze. I didn't know what to do. My friend noticed my reaction. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head. "I need to get out of here." He nodded. "I understand." As I turned to leave, Dominique saw me. She stood up and walked towards me. "Liam," she said, her voice hesitant. "Can we talk?" I hesitated. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to rehash the past. But then I looked at her face. I saw the pain, the regret, the remorse. I sighed. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk." We went outside and sat on a bench. We talked for a long time. About everything. About Mario, about Paula, about her family, about my feelings. She apologized. Sincerely. She told me that she had been selfish, that she had hurt me deeply, that she regretted her actions. I listened. I didn't say much. When she was finished, I said, "I forgive you, Dominique." It was true. I had forgiven her, not because she deserved it, but because I needed to let go of the anger and resentment that had been consuming me. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then I stood up. "Goodbye, Dominique," I said. She nodded. "Goodbye, Liam." I walked away. I didn't look back. A few weeks later, I was cleaning out my apartment when I came across the box containing the engagement ring. I picked it up and stared at it for a long time. What should I do with it? Sell it? Give it away? I decided to take it to a pawn shop. The owner offered me a few $100s. I took the money. As I walked out of the shop, I felt a sense of closure. I had finally let go of the past. I used the money to buy a new camera. Photography had always been a passion of mine, but I had never had the time or the money to pursue it seriously. Now I did. I started taking classes, joining photography groups, and exploring the city with my camera. I discovered a whole new world, a world of beauty, of creativity, of inspiration. I met new people, made new friends. I started to feel alive again. One day, I was at a local park, taking pictures of the trees, when I saw a woman sitting on a bench, reading a book. She looked up and smiled. I smiled back. Her name was Sarah. She was a writer. We started talking. We talked for hours. About books, about photography, about life. We connected in a way that felt different. As the sun began to set, she said, "I should probably go." I nodded. "I should too." We stood up. "Maybe," she said, "we could do this again sometime?" I smiled. "I'd like that very much." We exchanged numbers. As I walked away, I felt a sense of hope. The future was unwritten. Anything was possible. The next few months unfolded like a slow-motion montage from a feel-good movie. though with the occasional blooper reel moment thrown in for good measure. Sarah and I started dating. It was easy, comfortable, but with a spark that felt entirely new, different from the comfortable rhythm I'd fallen into with Dominique. We spent hours wandering through used bookstores, debating the merits of various obscure authors. We went to art galleries, argued about the meaning of abstract paintings. Sarah always had a deeper insight than I did. We cooked disastrous meals together, laughing until our stomachs ached as we ordered takeout. The difference was, I wasn't trying to force anything. I wasn't trying to mold Sarah into some ideal of what a partner should be. I let her be herself, and I allowed myself the same freedom. It was liberating. Meanwhile, my photography started to take off. I entered a few local contests, and to my surprise, I won. The recognition gave me a confidence boost, and I started to explore more ambitious projects. I documented the changing seasons in the local parks, capturing the fleeting beauty of nature. I photographed the faces of everyday people, telling their stories through my lens. Even my job at the dental office felt different. I approached it with a renewed sense of purpose, finding satisfaction in helping people feel better about themselves. I learned to compartmentalize, leaving my personal life at the door when I walked into the office each morning. Lou was thrilled for me. He'd been patiently supportive throughout my heartbreak, always there with a listening ear and a well-timed joke. He'd even started calling Sarah the real deal, which made me blush every time. Ellie, of course, was fiercely protective of me. She vetted Sarah thoroughly, grilling her about her intentions and her past. But after a few weeks, even Ellie had to admit that Sarah was good. For me, I still saw Victor and Kevin regularly. They'd become like family to me, and I cherished their friendship. They never brought up Dominique, respecting my boundaries, but they made it clear that I was still welcome in their lives. One day, Kevin called me with some unexpected news. Paula had been fired from Dominique's company. Apparently, her manipulative behavior had finally caught up to her. Kevin didn't go into details, but he hinted that there had been a major confrontation. I felt a pang of satisfaction, but it was fleeting. Paula's actions were a symptom of something deeper, something that I didn't fully understand. I also learned that Dominique had started dating someone new, a therapist, ironically. I didn't feel any jealousy, any resentment, just a quiet sense of relief. We were both moving on. A few months after my solo honeymoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was handwritten on delicate floral patterned paper. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from Kenza, the family friend who had offered me her vacation cabin. I carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Dear Liam, I hope this letter finds you well. I've been thinking about you a lot lately, and I wanted to reach out. I know that you've been through a difficult time, and I wanted to offer you my support. I've heard from Kevin and Victor how wonderfully you are handling everything. I always knew that you were a kind and good man. I'm not sure what else I can say. You are welcome to the cabin anytime you are in need of clearing your head or simply to exist without judgment. With love, Kenza. I smiled. Kenza's words were simple, but they were deeply comforting. I realized that I'd never actually thanked her for her offer. I decided to write her back. I told her about my photography, about Sarah, about the progress I was making. I thanked her for her kindness and her generosity. And then I did something I never expected. I asked if I could visit her at the cabin. A few weeks later, I found myself driving down the familiar winding road, heading towards the ocean. It was a beautiful day, the sky a clear, cloudless blue. I felt a sense of anticipation, but also a sense of peace. The cabin looked exactly the same as it had before. The weathered shingles, the small porch swing, the fake petunias in the window box. But this time, it didn't feel sterile. It felt welcoming. Kenza greeted me with a warm hug. She was an older woman, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She led me inside and we sat down on the worn sofa. We talked for hours. About everything. About her life. About my life. About the power of forgiveness and resilience. She told me stories about her own struggles, about her own heartbreaks. She shared her wisdom, her insights, her unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity. I realized that Kenza wasn't just offering me a place to escape. She was offering me a connection, a chance to learn from someone who had lived a long and full life. During my visit, I spent my days exploring the coastline with my camera. I captured the beauty of the ocean, the power of the waves, the serenity of the beach. I found a new appreciation for the simple things in life. One evening, Kenza and I were sitting on the deck, watching the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, a fiery masterpiece of reds, oranges, and purples. "Life is like that sunset," Kenza said, her voice soft. "It's beautiful, but it's also fleeting. You have to cherish every moment, every experience. You have to learn to let go of the past and embrace the future." I nodded. I understood. As I looked out at the ocean, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. I was grateful for the challenges I had faced, for the lessons I had learned, for the people who had supported me along the way. I was grateful for the chance to start over. I was grateful for the new beginnings that lay ahead. Back in the city, life continued to unfold. Sarah and I grew closer, our relationship deepening with each passing day. My photography career blossomed, and I started to receive invitations to exhibit my work in galleries across the country. One afternoon, I was browsing through a local bookstore when I stumbled upon a book of poetry. The cover caught my eye, a photograph of a lone tree standing on a windswept hill. I picked up the book and flipped through the pages. The poems were beautiful, evocative, and deeply personal. They spoke of love, loss, hope, and resilience. I bought the book and took it home. As I read the poems, I realized that I had found my voice. I had found a way to express my own experiences, my own emotions, through the power of art. I decided to create a photography exhibit inspired by the poems in the book. I spent months working on the project, carefully selecting each photograph, each image that captured the essence of the poems. The exhibit opened to rave reviews. People were moved by the beauty of the photographs, by the power of the poems, by the story of resilience that they told. One evening, as I was standing in the gallery surrounded by my work, I saw Sarah walk in. She smiled at me, her eyes sparkling with pride. She took my hand and squeezed it tight. "You did it," she said. "You created something truly beautiful." I smiled back. "We did it," I said, "together." As I looked around at the faces of the people admiring my work, I felt a sense of fulfillment that I had never experienced before. I had finally found my purpose. I had finally found my place in the world. The final picture, the one that seemed to resonate most with people, wasn't one of sweeping landscapes or poignant portraits. It was a simple image taken from a low angle of a patch of basil thriving in a dollar store pot. It was a symbol of hope, of growth, of the resilience of the human spirit. And for me, it was a reminder that even after the most devastating storms, life can bloom again in unexpected and beautiful ways. It was the picture of my new beginning. 2 years passed. 2 years filled with love, laughter, growth, and a quiet, persistent sense of becoming. Sarah and I built a life together, brick by brick, each brick a shared experience, a whispered secret, a silent understanding. We moved into a small house with a sprawling garden, adopted a rescue dog named Pixel. He chased butterflies and shed everywhere, and learned the art of compromising without sacrificing ourselves. One sunny afternoon, we were hiking in a state park, the air crisp and fragrant with pine. We reached a familiar overlook, the same windswept cliff where I'd proposed to Dominique years ago. The ocean stretched out before us, a vast expanse of blue. I took Sarah's hand. "Remember when I said I wasn't sure if I'd ever want to get married again?" She smiled. "I remember. You were pretty adamant about it," I chuckled. "Well, I was wrong." I knelt down, pulled a small velvet box from my pocket, and opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of satin, was a simple, elegant ring, a band of interwoven silver and turquoise, reflecting the colors of the sky and the sea. "Sarah," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you, laughing with you, and building a future with you?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Liam, I will." We embraced, and the world seemed to fade away, leaving only us, standing on the edge of the cliff, ready to jump into the unknown together. Our wedding was nothing like the one I'd planned with Dominique. There was no grand venue, no extravagant catering, no seating charts or elaborate floral arrangements. We eloped. We drove to Kenza's cabin, the same cabin where I'd found solace and healing. We invited only our closest friends and family, Lou, Ellie, Victor, and Kevin. Pixel served as our ring bearer, trotting down the aisle with a goofy grin and a ribbon tied around his neck. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, and deeply personal. Sarah and I wrote our own vows, speaking from the heart about the love we shared, the challenges we had overcome, and the dreams we had for the future. Victor gave a touching toast, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke of my resilience, my kindness, and my unwavering spirit. He welcomed Sarah into our family with open arms. Kevin, ever the comedian, cracked a few jokes, lightening the mood. He reminded everyone of the disastrous wedding planning I had endured years ago, and he thanked Sarah for saving me from a lifetime of floral arrangements and seating charts. Lou and Ellie stood by our side, offering their unwavering support and love. They were the witnesses to our journey, the anchors that had kept us grounded through the storms. As the sun began to set, Sarah and I exchanged rings. The simple silver and turquoise bands felt weighty and significant, symbols of our commitment to each other. We kissed, and the world exploded with color, a symphony of light and love. That night, we celebrated with a bonfire on the beach, roasting marshmallows, singing songs, and sharing stories. Pixel chased the waves, barking with joy. As I looked around at the faces of the people I loved, I realized that I had everything I needed. I had found my family, my purpose, and my soulmate. The ocean roared below, a constant rhythmic pulse. It was beautiful, yes, but no longer lonely. It was a reminder of the past, a celebration of the present, and a promise of the future. I was finally home,